The day at the Phoenix Mercury practice facility was basically like any other. As the team completed their drills, the brilliant lights overhead reflected off the polished oak floors. Known for her calm concentration and unrelenting work ethic, Lexie Hull wiped perspiration from her forehead and made her way to the locker room. She was focused on her daily schedule and was unaware that her life was about to take a drastic turn that would not only alter her own prospects, but also rock the women's basketball community as a whole. Normally bustling with activity, the gym seemed to quiet down. While watching the clock and waiting for someone or something, the coaches and staff moved silently. Unnoticed on typical days, the security cameras were abruptly aimed toward a certain door. Although it was impossible to deny the excitement in the air, Lexie was as concentrated as ever and unaware of the impending storm. The doors then opened as the final sounds of bouncing balls subsided. A tall figure entered, exuding the self-assurance that only comes from years of excellence. The people at the gym knew he was a legend even before his face was completely shown. The guy who revolutionized basketball, Michael Jordan, had come into the room with a stylish black folder that had the Nike emblem shining boldly on the cover. There was utter silence in the room, the kind of silence that only arises at the beginning of anything momentous. As Jordan approached her with deliberate, measured steps, Lexie's teammates, coaches, and staff looked on. Lexie stayed motionless for a while, unable to comprehend what was going on. She had grown up watching the best parts of Jordan's career and hearing about his collaboration with Nike, which revolutionized the sports marketing industry. And now he was approaching her directly, while carrying what could only be described as an opportunity symbol. Jordan held out the folder as he got to her. As the gravity of the situation sunk in, Lexie's hands shook as she took it. She opened it slowly. Her knees went weak when she saw what was within. The contract's figures were astounding. $11 million. In addition, she has her own brand shoe line, something that is only ever given to the world's best athletes. Her face was shocked. Her attempt to contain her tears made it clear to everyone in the room that this was anything from normal. As admirers attempted to capture the magic of what had just transpired, the event would be often relived on social media. For Lexie, this was more than just a personal triumph. That wasn't all that it was. A declaration that the sports industry was evolving. Big brands had long ignored and undervalued women's basketball, but now it was receiving the recognition it so richly earned. This news was all the more potent because Michael Jordan himself had traveled to personally deliver it. His initial Nike contract, signed in 1984, was regarded as audacious and revolutionary. However, this was not like the others. This was an indication that the following generation would have its own heroes, chances, and tales to share. The average season salary for WNBA players is between $60,000 and $250,000. This is a small portion of what their male counterparts earned. Female athletes rarely receive endorsement deals that are as large as those in men's sports. Instead, they are typically modest. However, this deal quickly altered everything. Lexie, who had always been seen as a dedicated worker rather than a glamorous celebrity, was now in a completely other league. She wasn't merely wealthy from the deal. She became a representation of what is achievable when skill, commitment, and the correct circumstances are combined. There was more to the agreement than just money. It was about acknowledgement, respect, and the opportunity to motivate a new generation. Nike demonstrated their view of Lexie as a trailblazer as well as an athlete by granting her her own trademark shoe line. The organization that was renowned for elevating sportsmen to legendary status was expressing their thoughts on the direction they thought basketball was heading. Additionally, they demonstrated that being the loudest or flashiest isn't always a prerequisite for excellence by selecting Lexie. Sometimes it comes down to passion, teamwork, and consistency. The word got out fast. As both players and fans celebrated this momentous occasion, videos of Lexie's response went viral on social media, garnering millions of views. It was dubbed a game share by analysts, and it would be a memorable event for years to come. It was an obvious message. Sports for women were no longer considered an afterthought. They represented the future, and companies like Nike were prepared to make significant investments in it. For Lexie, it was confirmation of all the hard work she had put in. Late nights, early mornings, and the never-ending pressure to succeed. Lexie had maintained her focus on the court, allowing her play to speak for itself, in contrast to several of her colleagues who had established their brands on social media. This transaction demonstrated that ethics and hard work might still have a significant impact. Nike made a straightforward but impactful statement after the announcement. Not just women's basketball, but basketball in general, they dubbed Lexie the future of the sport. They claimed that she would be the star of a significant ad that would debut prior to the upcoming WNBA season. Everyone was excited to see how this new alliance would develop, and the atmosphere was electrifying. The transaction couldn't have come at a better time. The popularity of women's basketball was rising as more corporate sponsors became engaged and TV viewership increased. However, there were still significant disparities in terms of sponsorship deals, media coverage, and pay. For her, getting the deal wasn't the only benefit. It was an indication that things were beginning to shift and that other female athletes could soon be able to take advantage of comparable chances. The sports community responded right away, and in a very positive way. Players from the NBA and WNBA celebrated the occasion and congratulated Lexie on social media. This was interpreted by supporters worldwide as an indication that the playing field was beginning to equal out. Lexie's tale offered young girls who aspired to play professionally hope that their aspirations may result in significant success on and off the court. Nike made a wise business decision as well. According to research, a greater proportion of sports shoe and apparel purchases were made by women. Nike was investing in a future where women's sports would continue to flourish and where female players would be as marketable as their male counterparts by appointing Lexie as their brand ambassador. This occasion marked the beginning of a new chapter in Michael Jordan's extraordinary history. He had previously altered the course of events by making his collaboration with Nike the most prosperous athlete brand in history. Now, he was demonstrating to the world that anyone could be the next big thing in basketball by endorsing Lexie. Even a player who rose to the top in silence and didn't chase attention. Lexie realized her life would never be the same when she left the gym that day, still in disbelief. She was more than just a player now. She represented a new age. There was more to the collaboration between Nike, Jordan, and Lexie Hall than just shoes and cash. Rewriting the rules and demonstrating to the world that women's basketball merited serious consideration were the goals. The entire world was watching, anticipating what would come next. This was only the beginning for Lexie and everyone who thought women's sports had great potential.